This episode covers June 16th to June 18th, 2024. Days 67, 68, and 69 of My Grand Detour. A 112-day, 18,000-mile solo motorcycle road trip across the US and Canada. My meanderings over these 3 days took me 715 miles. From snow-covered volcanoes and temperate rainforests to the northwesternmost point of the lower 48, and to a quiet ridge high above the clouds. Day 67. Ice, fire, and the road north. It was 34 degrees when I left Madras, Oregon, just before sunrise. Easily one of the coldest mornings of the trip. I bundled up and I rode north towards Mount Hood, through the mist, the occasional flurry, and the thick greens of the national forest. I really like making these videos and sharing my trips with you. If you're enjoying them, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support helps more people discover the channel, and it lets me know you're out there. I passed the Timberline Lodge, where they filmed The Shining. But the road up there was snow-covered and still being cleared, and I didn't have tire chains to put on the bike, so I rolled on. As I descended towards Portland, the air warmed and the world opened up again. But by early afternoon, I was climbing again, this time up the Spirit Lake Highway to Mount St. Helens. I was 12 when it erupted in 1980. I remember watching it unfold on TV, and I remember watching the ash cloud drift east across the country. But standing there, looking up at the crater, it hit different. Maybe it's because TVs were so much smaller then, or maybe because I was so much younger, but the scale of it all shocked me. The entire north face of the mountain is just gone, like someone took a bite out of the earth. The visitor center does an amazing job of showing just how massive the eruption was, and the devastating impact it had on the landscape, the animal population, the people who lived there, and those who lost their lives covering it. Sobering and awe-inspiring. From there, I headed north, through Castle Rock and finally into Olympia, where I found a Holiday Inn Express and took a short walk to a really nice dinner at Jasmine Thai. A long day, a thoughtful one, but a beautiful one. Day 68. Rainforests and Reflections. I left Olympia and picked up Route 101 again. The road cuts west to Aberdeen, the gateway to the Olympic Peninsula. It's an historic timber town known for logging, fishing, and canneries. It's also known as the hometown of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain. You'll see murals and tributes, and a bit of that gritty, creative spirit still lingering in the air. And from there, some of the Pacific Northwest's most scenic riding begins. Route 101 runs north through the Quinault, Queets, and Hoh rainforests, all part of the Olympic National Park. They're unlike anything else in the country. Moss blankets the trees, ferns spill onto the shoulder, and the air smells damp and ancient. At Kalaloch Lodge, I stopped for coffee and stepped out to watch the Pacific crash into the shore. A little wind, a little quiet, and a lot of space. Further north, at Ruby Beach, I met Connor, an Australian GS rider on a 4-month tour of the western US. He was heading counterclockwise, I was heading clockwise, and we were each going to places the other had just come from. It struck me how lucky we both were. Him in his 20s, me in my 50s, both out here chasing wonder, collecting stories, and living a version of freedom that's hard to explain, but really easy to feel when you're in it. And then we rolled on. The visual highlight of the day, though, was Lake Crescent. The water was so clear and blue, I actually said wow inside my helmet. Towering peaks rose on both sides, perfectly mirrored in the lake. One of the most beautiful places I rode through. I pulled into Port Angeles that afternoon, had some pizza at Bar Hop, walked around and took a nap. Dinner was at the next door gastropub. Day 69, the edge of the continent. I woke up early on a mission, Cape Flattery. In the lower 48, it's not the furthest north you can go. That's the northwest angle in Minnesota. And it's not the furthest west you can go either. That's Cape Mendocino in California. But it is the most northwest you can go. And it was a place that just called me to visit. You don't stumble upon Cape Flattery, and you don't pass through it on your way from anywhere to anywhere else. It's a destination itself. It's a place you have to intend to go. It's located on the Makah Reservation, near Nia Bay. You stop and buy a recreation pass, which helps support the community and gives you access to their protected lands. The Makah lands are stunning, and the people I met were proud to share their special corner of the continent. If you can, you should visit.
How's it going, sir? Do you have a recreational use permit?
I do.
What color is it?
Yellow. I'm not. I ride a bike too, and I'm not gonna.
The ride to the Cape is slow, narrow, rough, and winding. And the hike out is worth every step. The cliffs, the caves, the wildlife, the open Pacific stretching out beyond it all. It really does feel like the edge of the world.
Go a little bit further back. I'm just kidding.
I admired the views, snapped some pictures, and walked back uphill to my bike, thoroughly satisfied with the day. But there would still be more. I rode the hour back to Port Angeles and stopped at the Olympic National Park Visitor Center to get my sticker and my passport stamp. And I still had a couple hours of good riding time left in the day. So I made the decision to ride up to Hurricane Ridge. It's just 17 miles up, but it climbs over 5,000 feet, and it is a beautiful ride.
Hello. Sure, a nice machine, aren't they?
They sure are.
Yeah. Now I ride a 650 Bergman,
Oh, nice.
and it scoots.
Not bad.
Yeah, I two up and electric windshield mirror. I don't have to shift anymore, and
around each turn, if the clouds cooperate, you're greeted with endless views of green forests and snow-covered peaks. The summit was all fogged in, as it often is. and the visitor center is currently a trailer. The original structure burned down in May 2023. It's stunning and silent, and it gives you a good perspective on how big Olympic National Park really is. On the way back down, I happened to notice the car in front of me had a brake light out. They pulled over to let me pass, and I stopped to let them know. And they didn't speak much English. Turned out they were Scandinavian tourists. And they thought I was pulling them over for some official reason. Hours later, back at my motel, they turned out to be in the room next to mine, and we had a good laugh. They said they were relieved it was just a friendly heads up and not a ticket. Dinner was chowder at Moby Duck, followed by ice cream at Welly's. And with that, I had about as full a day as I could have hoped for. Sometimes the road gives you a destination. Other times, it just gives you a place to pause. The Olympic Peninsula is both. It's a place where forests meet the ocean, where cliffs fall into the sea, where strangers become fellow travelers, and the end of the road feels like the beginning of something else. In the next episode, I'll watch orcas breach the waves, visit the wooden boat mecca that is Port Townsend, ride a ferry across the Sound, and wind through the North Cascades into Canada. Thanks for riding along. Until the next ride, be safe, be curious, and keep meandering.